last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the situation on ground? At Gravitas, we don't just tell you stories from selected countries from around the world.
2 years since the Myanmar military coup, the people of Myanmar continue to live in a nightmare.
Because it does not suit their propaganda, or because they are too scared to speak truth to power.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
Stay connected with the world through WION. Like the page on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter for new alerts. Instagram for videos and images. And the website for the latest news, views, and analysis. WIONews.com. World is one.
Surrounding the ceremony, spending all that money on it at a time when the UK is going through the cost of living crisis.
Events like this have a value that you can't measure in monetary terms. The coronation is so important, and you can't just look at it in terms of how much it's going to cost.
Welcome to Gravitas London edition. I am Molly Gambhir, and we are coming to you live from London's iconic Trafalgar Square. The city is preparing for the big day, the coronation of King Charles. The ceremony will be taking place in about 6 days from now, but there is a lot of enthusiasm already. After all, the last time Britain hosted a coronation was 70 years ago. And there are tourists who are making their way to London as well. And for the next 7 days, we will be taking you on a tour through London. We will be reporting from some of the most iconic places of the city to get you a glimpse of how it is gearing up for the coronation ceremony. We will also be getting you ground reports, not just on the coronation, but also on the many issues plaguing the British society. We'll also tell you what the anti-monarchy protesters have to say and what people on the ground feel about the coronation. We'll also be interviewing experts about the status of the British monarchy and the state of British politics. Not just that, we'll also be adding the much-needed Indian perspective. As far as every story is concerned, it's going to be an action-packed week, a lot in store for you, and we will be culminating with our live coverage of the coronation all day on Saturday. This is Gravitas London edition. I am Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Building a secret spy base on an island owned by Myanmar? This is a question that is buzzing across the Indian Ocean. All thanks to some satellite images that show intense military modernization on Myanmar's Great Coco Island, which is located just a few kilometers away from the Andamans. The images have sparked concern that China could use this island to spy on India. What does India plan to do about it? Tonight, we discuss this in detail. Also on the show for you tonight, a meme shared by Ukraine's defense ministry has created an uproar among Indians. We tell you about this controversial story. A new demographic challenge arising in China. This time it's about raising a child. How does this make China the second most expensive country in the world? Marijuana businesses are booming in Thailand. We tell you how the country became a weed wonderland. A zoo in England has come up with a new job profile of a seagull deterrent. We tell you more about this job role. Our cover story tonight is from Myanmar, the land of pagodas. 2 years after coming under military rule, has the country now slipped into China's embrace? Is Myanmar helping Beijing build a spy base? I'm asking these questions because of some new satellite images that show telltale signs of military modernization, which, by the way, seem to have China written all over them. And these images have been accessed by Chatham House. They were first released in January 2023. What do they show? How an island owned by Myanmar is experiencing a steady makeover. Let's just tell you more about this. I'm talking about the Great Coco Island, the largest island in an isolated archipelago that lies in a remote region in the Bay of Bengal. Now, since the 1990s, this island has been a source of immense intrigue. It was once rumored to be a home to a Chinese intelligence facility, a claim that lacked hard evidence. But now, all of a sudden, concern over the island re-emerging. Let's just tell you more about this and the concern. First, have a look at these images. They show renewed levels of construction activity on Great Coco. Visible are 2 new hangars, a new causeway, and what appears to be an accommodation block as well, all of which visible in proximity to a freshly lengthened 2,300-meter runway and radar station, and visible as of late March on the southern tip of Great Coco. Just beyond the causeway connecting the islands is evidence of land clearing efforts indicating construction work to come. Now, these signs of construction have provoked concern that China, which Myanmar has grown increasingly dependent on after the February 2021 coup, could stand to gain from intelligence gathered there, either through espionage or intelligence sharing. More so because prior to the coup in 2020, about 40% of Myanmar's foreign debt of $10 billion was owed to China. And by all means, this has increased after the coup, given how China is also supplying arms to the military junta. Now, here's what experts are saying about the development. Jason Tower, Myanmar country director at the United States Institute of Peace, saying, and I'm quoting, With Myanmar reliant on China for international support and economic development, it's extremely likely that the army would share intelligence with Beijing and support China's strategic initiatives. And this presents a significant challenge to regional security and will likely generate significant tensions between China and India in the Bay of Bengal. Now, how will it generate tensions with India is the question. Let me explain this to you. First and foremost, Great Coco is small at 11 kilometers in length, but its location is strategically important. It's not only close to the Strait of Malacca, one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, but it also lies 55 kilometers from India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which host Indian Navy and Air Force bases. So the militarization of the Coco Islands by the Tatmadaw, combined with the wider Chinese developments occurring inland, could pose a significant security challenge to India and its navy, especially near the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which provide India's eastern fleet strategic depths in the Bay of Bengal and command approaches to the Strait of Malacca. But after China gets access to Great Coco, Chinese commercial shipping could soon bypass the strait and offload their cargo in Myanmar, nullifying India's advantage. And that's not all. Great Coco could also be used as leverage in negotiations with Delhi. It can be used to extract economic support and maintain India's engagement with the junta. And just to put it simply, for India, Great Coco Island was in the past a place for outlandish theories. It may now become a real point of concern soon. Our next story is from Sudan. Even though the warring sides agreed to extend a truce, fighting still continues to intensify. And reports say over 500 people have been killed, while millions remain trapped in Khartoum. Thousands of victims are starving without food or shelter, and a war between the military and the paramilitary force is triggering chaos. Could this lead to a refugee crisis as well, with the warring factions continue to disrespect the ceasefire? Our next report telling you more.
Sudan's capital, Khartoum, was supposed to feel the relief of a ceasefire. A momentary truce meant to let people flee the capital. The truce call came about due to intensive diplomatic efforts by several nations, but it remained a virtual non-starter. The rapid support forces couldn't wait a few hours. Airstrikes continue to pound Khartoum. The death toll continues to rise as the two sides fight for power. Sudan's former Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok has raised concerns of long-term troubles. He said that the conflict could become worse than those in Syria and Libya. The United Nations said a ripple effect could be felt across Africa. This could be true, as Hamdok has stated, this is not the army looking to crush a small rebellion. It is practically like two armies fighting, with both sides well-trained and well-armed. Hamdok sees the fight between the two generals as a nightmare for the world. The ex-Prime Minister has called for an international effort to persuade both sides to hold peace talks. Meanwhile, chaos ranges on in Port Sudan, where people are desperate to board ships. People are sleeping on the streets and food supplies are running short.
There are no homes or apartments here. People come and they come here to sleep on the street. Women have nowhere to shower. There are children, diabetic people, others with hearing impairments, and pregnant women. Thank God for everything.
UN's attempt at providing humanitarian aid have failed, as warehouses and offices are prone to looting by rebels. UN's Emergency Relief Chief, Martin Griffiths, has been sent to Sudan. Griffiths said the humanitarian situation has reached breaking point. Countries continue emergency efforts to pull out their nationals. Britain pulled out nearly 1,900 people and has ended its evacuation process. This is after it faced heavy criticism on its evacuation operations. UK had decided to only rescue diplomats and some of its citizens. The government made a U-turn and started focusing on rescuing workers and more citizens. The US is also pushing to rescue its people. Several US citizens are being evacuated to Saudi Arabia's Jeddah. India has shipped over 3,000 citizens to the Jeddah port. Over 2,000 Indians rescued from Sudan are back in India under an intensive rescue operation named Kaveri. Sudan's army has now urged people to stay indoors as it plans to deploy more tanks and artillery. The RSF says the army is only widening the conflict and planning to deploy the Central Reserve Police, a unit known for being brutal against civilians. Is the world witnessing another battle turning into a war? Can peace talks take place between the warring factions? How much longer must tensions continue? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Our next story is about a tweet that was put out by Ukraine's defense ministry, which has triggered a raging controversy. Now that tweet, that meme, has now been taken down, but Indians are demanding an apology. What's the story all about? Our next report telling you.
The Ukraine Defense Ministry has sparked a controversy on the internet. It tweeted a meme that has outraged Indians. What was it about? Let me tell you. It was a mockery of religious sentiments of Indians. The picture showed plumes of smoke rising from a building, but it was morphed into the likeness of a Hindu goddess, reportedly by Ukrainian artist Maxim Polenko. The meme showed a woman who had blue skin. She wore a garland of severed heads. Her tongue was out. Simply put, it had striking similarities to goddess Kali. Here comes the controversial part. The figure was seen in a classic Marilyn Monroe pose. Yes, you heard that right. The meme was posted from Ukraine Defense Ministry's official Twitter handle. And to top that off, it was captioned as a work of art. What kind of art is this? Ukraine has some explaining to do because Indian netizens have taken offense. The tweet was taken down after the backlash, but it had been viewed at least 585,000 times. Its screen grabs made rounds on the internet. Users called the meme an attack on religious sentiments. Many labeled it Hindu-phobic. Others called for India's Ministry of External Affairs to look into the matter. While the Ukraine Defense Ministry's tweet has been deleted following the backlash, the controversy has not died down.
It's a tradition as old as the British Empire. A ceremony that we haven't seen in the last 70 years. A day that promises to be one of the grandest in British history. Witness the coronation of King Charles III with me, Molly Gambhir, all the way from London. For the next 7 days, we will take you behind the scenes to help you understand what it takes to crown the British King. We'll also show you what to expect from the event, the spectacular arrangements, the spirited dress rehearsals, the figures to watch out for, and of course, the controversies surrounding the event. Watch the most comprehensive coverage in the run-up to the coronation ceremony all through this week with me, Molly Gambhir, only on WION World is One. What goes down during a coronation? What happens behind the scenes? Why does King Charles need it? Isn't he already the king? Also, how much money is being spent on the coronation ceremony? These are some basic questions that come to one's mind when they think of an event like this. And if you are one of them and are confused about what the coronation really is, we've got you covered in our next report.
In September 2022, upon the death of Queen Elizabeth, Charles succeeded his mother to become UK's new monarch. All of 73 years of age, he also became the oldest person ever to accede to the British throne.
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, it is my most sorrowful duty to announce to you the death of my beloved mother, the Queen.
8 months on, he is set to be officially crowned as the king. In an extravagant coronation ceremony, which will be held on the 6th of May. But what exactly is this ceremony? Why does Charles need it if he's already king? How much money is being spent on the event? And how is London preparing for it? We decided to find out. We travelled across the length and width of London to gather every piece of information about the event. We started with the obvious question. What is a coronation? Well, the word itself is derived from the Latin word corona, meaning crown. But it's much more than literally placing the crown on the sovereign's head. It's a symbolic coming together of the monarchy, the church, and the state. A ritual during which the monarch makes vows to protect both the god and the country.
Some experts say a coronation is similar to a wedding, but instead of a spouse, the monarch is getting married to the state. How exactly? Well, the 2,000 people who will witness the coronation in person will be asked if they recognize him as the monarch, after which he will be given the coronation ring and asked to swear an oath.
Next question. Why does Charles need a coronation? Isn't he already the UK's monarch? Well, he is. But this ceremony is needed to formalize the transfer of title and powers to him through an oath. A promise to uphold law, justice and mercy, as fundamental things matter.
Coronation ceremonies in the UK have changed little over the past 1,000 years. By law, there is no need for such a ceremony as the monarch in a way takes over the role after the death of the predecessor automatically, but they are a symbolic gesture symbolizing the commitment of the monarch to the role.
So how long will the ceremony be? Well, Charles's coronation is expected to be shorter than his mother's 7 decades ago. Back then, the ceremony, which was the first live royal event to be televised, ran for more than 3 hours. This time, many experts are suggesting it's likely to be closer to 2 hours. And what about the crown? Which crown will the king wear? Well, there are 2 of them. The first is the St. Edward's crown, which will be used at the exact moment of crowning. The second is the Imperial State crown, which will be worn after the spiritual events of the ceremony. Next question. Will there be a procession? This is a royal celebration. Of course there's a procession. In fact, there will be 2 through the streets of the British capital on Coronation Day. One will take the king to be crowned, and after the service there'll be a larger parade back to Buckingham Palace, where the monarch and members of the royal family will make a balcony appearance and watch it fly past. And last but not the least, how much money will this event cost? Well, it'll be a party fit for a king, with an envious price tag to match.
The king's coronation is set to cost millions, and it falls on the taxpayer to foot the bill. While no budget has been revealed for the occasion, some predictions suggest that it could cost Britain somewhere between 50 to 100 million euros. And while that does sound like a lot, it's way less than what the previous monarchs have spent on their crowning.
So the countdown has begun. All eyes are on May 6th as Charles gets crowned and the sound of God Save the King echo across the United Kingdom. Here's hoping the sound doesn't get overshadowed by the thunderous rancor of Not My King protests. Bureau Report WION, World is One.
So the British royal family is throwing a party. The question is, who is attending it and who all are on the guest list? Well, there are world leaders, there are foreign royals as well, diplomats, dignitaries, celebrities, even religious leaders. There are a total of 2,000 of them coming for the coronation ceremony. The question is there someone who is not? We set out in London in quest for some answers, and this is what we found.
In 1953, over 8,000 people crowded the Westminster Abbey to witness the coronation of Queen Elizabeth. "70 years on, the coronation of her son, King Charles III, will be a dramatically slimmed-down ceremony, with roughly 2,000 people attending the event. The guest list has been prepared. The invitations have been sent out and the confirmations of attendance have come in.
Foreign kings and queens, British politicians, world leaders, even religious figures. They will all be joining the royal family to witness the coronation ceremony. In fact, the invitees are expected to reflect a modern and multicultural Britain that will evolve further under the new king.
So who all are coming? We'll start with the political figures first. French President Emmanuel Macron will be there. So will the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Germany and Italy will send their ceremonial presidents Frank-Walter Steinmeier and Sergio Mattarella. From Pakistan, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif will be attending the event. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. and First Lady Liza Aroneta Marcos will represent the Philippines. And lastly, Chinese Vice President Han Zheng, who presided over a civil liberties crackdown in Hong Kong, is also on the King's guest list. A move that has been branded quote-unquote outrageous by Conservative MPs. If we speak of royals now, besides the British royal family, there will be a glittering number of foreign royals. This includes Prince Albert II of Monaco and his wife, Princess Charlene, King Philip VI and Queen Letizia of Spain, King Carl XVI Gustaf of Sweden, King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima of the Netherlands, Crown Prince Frederick and Crown Princess Mary of Denmark. The King and Queen of Norway will be represented by Crown Prince Haakon and Crown Prince Mette Marit. And lastly, Bhutan's King Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuk and Queen Jetsu Pema Wangchuk have also confirmed their presence. If we speak of government representatives and officials from international organizations, there is Narayan Prakash South, Nepal's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jill Biden, the First Lady of the United States, Roberta Metsola, President of the European Parliament, Charles Michel, President of the European Council, Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, Amina Jane Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. On to the celebrities now. There will be Rowan Atkinson, David and Victor Beckham, Bear Grylls in his capacity as Chief Scout of the Scout Association, Amanda Holden and Sir Bryn Terfel-Jones. And lastly, what about the royals? While it hasn't yet been publicly confirmed, it is guaranteed that nearly the entire British royal family will be in attendance, except a few names, the biggest one being Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex.
Prince Harry will attend the coronation of his father, while his wife, Meghan Markle, will stay at home in California with their 2 children. Now, it is believed that her decision to stay back is in part to do with the fact that the coronation date of the 6th of May falls on their son Archie's 4th birthday. But is that really the case?
Whatever be the case, it seems the rest of the royal family will be relieved that Meghan won't be there. After all, they wouldn't want their internal family drama to overshadow this global spectacle. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And as promised, we are getting you a host of special interviews. We're speaking to experts, getting you a range of voices just to piece together the preparations and get you behind the scenes as far as the big day, the coronation ceremony, is concerned. We spoke to Unmesh Desai, a member of the Labour Party. Now, he gave his insights on the much-awaited event, the King's coronation. We also spoke to him about the UK-India relationship and what it means at this point and where things lie. Also about the Indian diaspora in the UK. Take a look. With me right now is Unmesh Desai, a British Indian. He is a member of the Labour Party and he has represented City and East in the London Assembly since 2016. Very good to have you with us. Welcome to WION World is One.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What about the criticism surrounding the ceremony? You know, spending all that money on it at a time when the UK is going through the cost of living crisis that the people, the common people, are bearing the brunt of.
Well, yes, there have been some criticism. But look, events like this, don't come around every year. It's a once-in-a-lifetime, event. But you see, look at the value that events like this add to the image of Britain. We've been through Brexit, through COVID. We are trying to re-establish a relationship with countries like India post-Brexit, a very, very important trading partner for a post-Brexit Britain. And events like this have a value that you can't measure in monetary terms. You can't just see things like the Coronation in terms of money. It's about the symbolic value, about how it strengthens our country and our relationships and links with the Commonwealth in particular. India is an important part of the Commonwealth.
Let's just talk about the role of the Indian diaspora in the UK now. You, of course, are a British Indian. The contribution of Indians, they also are said to be among the wealthiest in this part of the world. So how do you see this in terms of the relationship between the UK and India?
This is where I think that the British Indian community is part of a very multiracial, multicultural Britain, and that is why the British Indian diaspora, and I would say the Indian diaspora all around the world, is actually taking part in the celebrations marking the coronation, because the relationship between our two countries is so important. So whether we are Indians living in India or British Indians in this country, it is a relationship that has grown over the years. There have been tensions, of course, and no one's denying that. We had the little incident outside the Indian High Commission a few days ago, about which I formally protested to the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, whose office is just behind us, as to why there was no security that day. So, but incidents like that will not damage the strong relationship that we have. And that is why the coronation ceremony is a very important milestone in strengthening the relationship.
And talking about those incidents and the activities of the pro-Khalistani elements in the UK, why do you think they are on the rise and we are witnessing a frequency like this at this point?
Well, firstly, there are people who, by making some noise, have an influence that actually is far, have a media impact that is far, far greater than their numbers. It's a few people. Even if you look at the protest outside the High Commission, in terms of numbers, it was small. The overwhelming majority of British Indians, no matter which part of India they come from, reject such actions. And the Prime Minister, the government, everyone, the Foreign Secretary strongly condemned. It was a lapse of security. It should not have happened. It puts a section of the community in a bad light, but I would say that the majority of the overwhelming majority, the people I work with, British Indians, British Punjabi, British Sikhs, reject such actions.
Let's just talk about your party in greater detail. It's been accused of anti-India policies and also the unwanted remarks on abrogation of Article 370, the activism on Kashmir. Do you think that that's drawn away the British Indian voter from your party?
Our challenge is to regain their trust. There were some remarks made by the previous Labour Party leader, which did not represent the real position of the Labour Party. What Keir Starmer has said very clearly is that he wants to restore those links with India, regain the trust of the British Indian community again, which is there, has been lost to some extent because of some irresponsible remarks.
Right. How do you see this entire controversy around the BBC at this point, the resignation of Richard Sharp as well?
Well, I think it shows the importance that we put on transparency in this country and in our political structures. Richard Sharp, the governor of the BBC, the chairman of the BBC, was a prime ministerial appointment. He should come out very clearly about whatever links he had, direct or indirect, with the Prime Minister. It was a big slip on his part, and he's had to, in my opinion, he's done the right thing by resigning. You've got to have absolute honesty and integrity and transparency and openness in politics, and we demand the higher standards of elected representatives.
I just want to go back to what you mentioned earlier about these pro-Khalistani elements. What more do you think the British government needs to do to try and, act against them? And clearly not enough is being done at this point. And how does the Labour Party plan to change that? What are you planning to do about it?
We simply cannot condone violence of any type, hate speech in any form, around any issue, whether it's the Middle East, Kashmir, or whatever. There are ways and means to conduct the debate, and in particular, elected politicians, no matter which party they come from, have got a responsibility upon them to use the right language, to have a mature debate about issues that are very complex, and how we behave ourselves, how we conduct ourselves, the language we use. We always got to be looking at ways of peaceful resolutions.
China is in the news again, and this time it's not for its one-child policy or the low birth rate in the country. It is a new demographic crisis altogether. China is among the costliest countries in the world when it comes to raising a child. That's right. In fact, of late, China is making headlines for all the wrong reasons, and this being one of them. What's this about? After South Korea, China is the most expensive country in the world to raise a child. And this, perhaps, is the latest crisis faced by China. Childcare is expensive everywhere. Not only is it financially consuming, but it also consumes an individual, both mentally and physically. Let's just say if I asked you to guess how costly it is to raise a child to college graduation in China, how? Could you think of a number? Any predictions on that front? Let me tell you the exact number. It is $90,711. The cost of raising the same child from birth to 17 years of age is 485,000 yuan or $69,430 US. A study by WION Population Research Institute has said that the cost of raising a child until the age of 18 in China was 6.9 times its gross domestic product per capita. Women in China have time and again cited heavy economic burdens as a reason behind not wanting a child. In 2017, a survey was conducted by the National Health and Family Planning Commission. This survey found that 77.4% women of childbearing age say that high childbearing costs were the top reason for not wanting a child. And this is not the first time that China is facing a demographic crisis. This is just one of the many crises that China is dealing with. And apart from childcare being so expensive, China is struggling with low birth rates as well. It is also becoming an aging society, which means that it has higher mortality rates than the birth rate. Further, the size of its labor force is shrinking. So, does this mean that China is facing a demographic challenges on multiple fronts? The answer is a definite yes. And how does one fix this? Perhaps at a national level, policies that reduce childbearing costs for families need to be introduced. And with this, specific measures that aim at cash and tax subsidies should be looked into. There is also an urgent need to address issues of maternity leaves and the rights of single women in China. While a lot of these issues are in the pipeline to be addressed, the question is, how effective has the government been in tackling them? As China attempts to be a global power and races towards global dominance, is it giving its domestic issues a miss? And if it continues to do so, for how long will it be able to run in the race of global dominance? Maybe now is the time for China to stop poking its nose elsewhere and focus on its expensive domestic affairs. Marijuana businesses are booming in Thailand. Less than a year ago, you could be jailed for 5 years for possessing marijuana, up to 15 years for producing it. And now, restaurants are selling marijuana-laced dishes. There is cannabis tea, ice cream. Convenience stores are also selling marijuana-flavored water. You can take your pick. But the weed industry remains largely unregulated. Ahead of the elections, rival political parties are threatening to recriminalize marijuana if they come to power. Where is this free weeding industry really headed? Our next report getting you the complete story.
Take a little walk in Bangkok. and you will find multiple dispensaries lining the streets. These dispensaries sell potent marijuana flower buds, along with all the bits and pieces needed to smoke them. If you happen to take the Khao San Road, you would see an entire marijuana-themed shopping mall. It's named Plantopia. Its shops stay glazed with the smoke created by customers testing out the products. This is the new Thailand, the one where cannabis consumption is legal. Until last June, you could be jailed for 5 years for this. Now, you can get marijuana delivered by a motorbike courier. You can find marijuana delicacies in restaurants, in convenience stores. It's now a flavor for tea, for ice creams, even for water. Look at this website. It's called Weed. It lists over 4,000 businesses across Thailand selling cannabis and its derivatives. This should be enough to give you an idea. The marijuana industry has grown at a breathtaking speed in less than a year. You see, this new regime was a bit of a political accident. Anutin Charnvirakul, head of one of Thailand's larger political parties, actually centered his 2019 campaign around decriminalizing marijuana. It proved to be a vote winner for him. As health minister in the new government, Charnvirakul prioritized fulfilling his election pledge. In June 2022, cannabis was decriminalized in Thailand. But it was before anyone could write regulations to control the new business. The planned new laws got bogged down by inter-party bickering. The police admit that they are unsure of what's legal and what isn't when it comes to marijuana. There are some rules, but they are being enforced haphazardly, if at all. All dispensaries selling cannabis are required to have a license, but not all of them have it. They are supposed to keep track of all their cannabis flowers and the personal details of every customer, but this rule is rarely followed. No products are supposed to have more than 0.2% THC. It is the psychotropic chemical in cannabis. Yet, you can find suppliers offering potent weed brownies and gummies with high THC content online. Cannabis cannot be sold to anyone below the age of 20. But who is to know if they order it online? For the longest time, all narcotics were viewed as a dangerous social evil in Thailand. For many Thais, the dramatic boom of the weed business is bewildering. Why was this decision taken in the first place? One of the reasons was financial. Marijuana was viewed as a profitable alternative cash crop for poor farmers. It was intended to boost national income, but in truth, marijuana isn't fetching the money it was expected to. There are hordes of buyers, but then there is no shortage of sellers either. Marijuana prices are falling as there's a glut of products. With so much competition, sales are plummeting for many farmers. Profits remain a far sight. Many regret switching to marijuana farming. And now the narcotic faces threat in the parliament too. Already rival parties are warning of the dangers of unregulated weed. Many are threatening to recriminalize it if they take power. The future of this freewheeling new industry remains uncertain. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Let's now tell you what else made news around the world. Time for Gravitas Global Headlines.
The humanitarian crisis in Sudan is worsening. At an emergency meeting of the Arab League, Egypt has issued an advisory that since the beginning of the conflict between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary, over 40,000 Sudanese have left the country to seek refuge in Egypt so far. Iran's foreign minister has now thanked Saudi Arabia for aiding in the evacuation of 65 Iranian citizens from Sudan. Ties between Riyadh and Tehran have been getting warmer since diplomatic relations were restored between the two countries last month. A May Day march in the French city of Nantes descended into chaos after protesters set kiosks on fire and attempted to storm official buildings. French police also clashed with anarchists clad in black, who were armed with Molotov cocktails and flares while hurling projectiles. The march was organized by trade unions to protest Emmanuel Macron's highly controversial pension reforms that have left France divided. France isn't the only nation bearing witness to May Day demonstrations. Turkish riot police have detained dozens of protesters who were attempting to reach Istanbul's Taksim Square. The Turkish government had allowed May Day celebrations to be held in a different district. Planned demonstrations at the Taksim Square have been declared illegal. Russia has launched its second major airstrike at Ukrainian territory in 3 days. While Ukraine claims to have shot down 15 of 18 cruise missiles, 3 made it through the nation's defenses. 2 of the missiles reportedly struck the city of Pavlohrad, a railway hub. The strike left 34 people wounded and multiple homes badly damaged. A climate activist glued his hands to a presenter podium in Switzerland during a local election debate. The disturbance sparked angry jeers and boos from the crowd who had gathered to witness a policy debate between candidates. Swiss climate policies have become a hot topic of debate ahead of a major referendum to update them set to be held in June. Former US President Donald Trump has reached Scotland for a planned golf trip. Trump is set to visit golf courses he owns in Scotland and Ireland. The trip comes weeks after Trump was charged with 34 felony counts in New York over a hush payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Trump has pleaded not guilty to all charges. US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy held meetings with the Israeli leadership on the last day of his visit to Israel. McCarthy met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem. Both leaders also addressed the Israeli parliament at a state welcoming ceremony. McCarthy also visited the Yad Vashem, Israel's central Holocaust museum. Stephen Curry scored 50 points to lead NBA champions Golden State Warriors past the Sacramento Kings in the first round series decider. Curry's title is the highest ever in a game of 7 of a playoff series. The Warriors will now face LeBron James and Los Angeles Lakers in the next round. John Tony Finau fended off world number 1 John Rahm by 3 shots to win the Mexico Open and claim his second title of the season. The American sealed victory with a 24 under for the week, with Rahm taking second at 21 under. Brandon Wu was 2 shots behind in third position, while Indian origin Akshay Bhatia finished 4th.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition. We're leaving you with Gravitas images. Thanks very much for watching. And here's just a reminder. As we said, we are coming to you live from London all through the week in the run-up to the coronation ceremony. We're getting you a bunch of stories from London, of course getting you stories from around the world as well. Stay tuned to WION World is One.
as King Charles III gets officially crowned. WION goes to London to cover the coronation. A week-long coverage from the City of Dreams. A glorious spectacle of pageantry and grandeur. 7 days, 2,000 guests. Multiple events. Multiple controversies, from street parties to Not My King protests. From themed concert to the royal family drama.
Watch the most comprehensive coverage. It's only on WION with me, Molly Gambhir. It's a tradition as old as the British Empire. A ceremony that we haven't seen in the last 70 years. A day that promises to be one of the grandest in British history. Witness the coronation of King Charles III with me, Molly Gambhir, all the way from London. For the next 7 days, we will take you behind the scenes